In today's video, we have several NHL news updates, including several more roster cuts from NHL training camps, including players who need to go on waivers. We've had another signing to discuss. We have a couple of new trade rumors. Plus, I want to touch on the fact that Sidney Crosby had his jersey retired from his old junior club as well. We'll get into all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of news updates here, so let's dive right in and get started. First of all, I want to get started with a lot of the roster cuts from around the NHL and some of these players that are going to be requiring waivers and are currently waiting to see if they get claimed or end up getting assigned to their minor league affiliates. The Montreal Canadiens have cut some more players, including goaltender Charlie Lindgren and forward Charles Hudon. Now, Charlie Lindgren wouldn't really come as any surprise given the fact that Carey Price and Keith Kincaid are already on the roster. We knew that was going to be the NHL tandem. But of course, Charlie Lindgren's a young goaltender with still a fair bit of potential. We'll be interested to see if he is claimed or not. There are some teams out there that are looking for some goaltending depth. We haven't had any waiver wire claims so far this preseason, so we'll see if anything happens here or not. Of course, in the case of Charles Hudon, he's a forward with a fair bit of experience now who has struggled the last couple of years. There's been a lot of rumors about him either maybe being moved out or whatnot, so we'll see what happens with Charles Hudon, but I'd say more than likely he clears and likely goes down to the American Hockey League and plays for Laval, at least for the time being. Now, the Detroit Red Wings have cut several players, including many of their young, promising top prospects, including Joe Veleno and Philip Zadina, 2019 first-round selection Mo Seider, even Michael Rasmussen, who played majority last year in the NHL. I think he only played a couple of games in the American Hockey League, so he was mostly an NHL player last year. Didn't have phenomenal results. I think he put up like 18 points in 60 games or something, but really overall, I didn't think it was all that bad. I haven't had a chance to see the Red Wings too much through training camp, but clearly they feel he needs some more seasoning. Could be a little bit of a different approach here with Steve Yzerman at the helm, but as we know, the Red Wings for many, many years have been fond of letting their players kind of percolate and season down in the minors before they come up and get ready for the big time here. So we'll see what happens with these players, but obviously Grand Rapids should have a pretty interesting, fun team to watch in the AHL with all this top talent, high draft picks here from the Red Wings. The Florida Panthers have cut young promising forward Owen Tippett, so he'll end up playing in the AHL as well. This will be his first pro season. I thought Tippett might have an outside chance of getting on the Panthers, but I mean, he is mostly known as a goal scorer. They very well might want him to work on a little bit more of his overall game. They do have a deep roster of forwards. Might be a clear case here where if they couldn't give him a more of an offensive role in the top 6 or top 9, that they would rather see him play a bigger role, bigger minutes in the AHL, rather than possibly be a fourth liner who doesn't see the ice a whole lot and play with other players who might not be on a different level or whatnot. So we'll see what happens here, but Owen Tippett will start in the AHL. The Colorado Avalanche have made some more cuts, including a couple of their younger players as well, including Shane Bowers and AJ Greer. Of course, Shane Bowers, this will be his first year pro. Greer's been in the system now for a couple of years, so they will start as well in the American Hockey League. As I mentioned before, the Calgary Flames have had several players on professional tryouts. They did sign Toby Reeder previously. They did cut Devontae Smith-Pelly, and now we found out that they're also signing Zach Ronaldo to a one-year, two-way contract, $700K at the NHL, $125K at the American Hockey League, and he will require waivers to go on the NHL roster. So he's on the waiver wire right now, so he possibly could be claimed, but I would think more than likely Ronaldo likely clears, and then the Flames can decide where they want to place him from there. They very well might place him in the AHL to start the season. I'm not really sure what their plans are as of yet. The Ottawa Senators have made some more cuts as well, and they've sent down defenseman Christian Jaros, who was a bit of a surprise. He spent majority of the year in the NHL with the Senators last year, so it looks as though they are going to be giving Erik Brandstrom, of course, the top young Swedish defenseman that they acquired from Vegas in the Mark Stone trade. It looks as though he will be making the NHL roster. I'm not sure if he'll be in the regular top 6 or if he might end up being more of the number 7 guy, but I think more than likely they're going to end up keeping Cody Golubeff as well. I think he'll probably be the number 7 guy, not be in there as often. And I think they're going to give Brandstrom an early look here, early on in the season to see how things go. And if things are panning out well, he very well might secure himself a spot. But at least they have Jaros in the American Hockey League, and they have Golubeff, who's a little bit more of a veteran as the extra guy up there as well. So we'll see. They've also signed former first-round pick Logan Brown and Vitaly Abramov, who they acquired from Columbus in that Matt Duchene trade back at the deadline. Logan Brown has been around for a few years now and still hasn't cracked a regular NHL roster. So there are some concerns over his long-term ability, that he may not turn out to be the player that they're hoping for. Looks as though they will be keeping youngsters like Drake Batherson and Philip Schlappick on the roster. Rudolph Balcers, who they acquired from San Jose in the Erik Karlsson trade, is still with the roster as well as Christian Verlanen, but they're both going to be starting the year on injury reserve. So I guess we'll see what opportunities they end up getting once they're healthy and cleared to play. Now, we saw a bit of an ugly incident today between the Washington Capitals and the Carolina Hurricanes. It really wasn't all that bad, but Tom Wilson was in a situation where he was basically trying to take on the entire Carolina Hurricanes bench. There was a bit of a scrum that ensued. He ended up getting a misconduct, getting a lot of penalty minutes out of this, but ultimately, later after the game he was interviewed, he said that he was being chirped by not a player, but one of the coaches. He didn't say a name, so I don't know if it was Rod Brindamore or one of the assistants, but it was certainly a little bit of an ugly incident. Not quite sure if anything will come from that, if there's any potential suspensions or fines. I wouldn't think there'll be a suspension, but where he was publicly speaking about a coach chirping him, I don't know if the NHL will look into that or not at all. I think at worst maybe a fine would take place, if anything, but certainly was an interesting incident between the Caps and the Canes, as there certainly get some blood boiling here between the two rivals to start the NHL regular season. Now, of course, Sidney Crosby was honored the other night in Rimouski with the Rimouski Oceanic. Of course, his former junior club, where he had a tremendous amount of success, ended up going the first overall draft pick to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Of course, right now the projected 2020 first overall selection, Alexis Lafreniere, also plays for the same franchise. Now, the team was announcing that they were retiring Crosby's number 87, and then during the ceremony it was actually revealed that the entire league, the entire QMJHL, is banning the number from being worn. It's retired now league-wide, so that is a tremendous honor that you rarely ever see. Obviously, Sidney Crosby's been a very accomplished hockey player at all levels, including major, junior, including the NHL, the Olympics, international hockey. So it's quite an honor for Crosby. He ended up giving a speech and was clearly a little bit emotional and very appreciative of all the accolades he was receiving. So certainly quite an honor, and things were capped off well with Alexis Lafreniere scoring an overtime winner. Of course, they've had the privilege now of having Crosby be a number one draft pick, all those years ago. Now they have Lafreniere, who's on pace to be a first overall selection as well. And I guess it's kind of early to say if Lafreniere will be anywhere near what Crosby has accomplished, because he's still quite young. But either way, it was a tremendous honor for Sidney Crosby. It's not very often you see a league-wide retirement of a hockey number. A couple of injury updates as well in Vegas. Looks as though Alex Tuch and Cody Eakin are both likely doubtful for the season opener, but it is likely that Cody Glass is going to be making his NHL debut. Looks as though he's going to secure himself a spot, especially where they have a couple of injuries, just going to increase the likelihood. But apparently I was reading that there is a possibility he could skate on a scoring line centering Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty. That would be a tremendous opportunity for Cody Glass if he can really seize that, and not quite clear exactly how long the other two guys are going to be out. I don't think it'd be too long. Mostly they're considered day-to-day, so they might miss 1 or 2 games or not be out for very long. So either way, tremendous honor for Glass to jump in the league, possibly have an opportunity to play with some terrific players, and we'll see if he can make the most of it. Now, as I mentioned, we have a couple of updated NHL trade rumors as well. The New York Post is reporting that the future of Ryan Strome in the Rangers organization is certainly questionable and possibly doubtful. Of course, he's a pending unrestricted free agent. In the last couple of years, we've seen the Rangers ship out a lot of pending UFAs. For the most part, they haven't retained a whole lot of veteran players that have fallen under that status. Of course, he's not the only one. They've also got Chris Kreider, who we haven't really heard a whole lot of talk about more recently, but at one point there was a lot of chatter whether or not he would be re-signing or if he would end up getting shipped out. I do think the odds of both of them being traded are probably good, just because they have so much young talent that it's going to be present either in the opening night lineup or depending on who makes the roster. But either way, between their American Hockey League team and the young guys that are going to be getting some playing time now, they have a ton of young talent. They're loaded with prospects and loaded with young players who are going to be starting to get some playing time. So they certainly want to make sure that they have every opportunity to succeed. So it certainly is doubtful, but I don't think the Rangers are in any kind of rush with either player. I think it's pretty fair to say that they're both certainly on the trade bait board. They very well could both be moved, but I think they're going to start the year, see how things go. You just never know. The Rangers might be able to battle for a playoff spot. They're going to be greatly improved, I think, from last year and the last couple of years, but I do think they're going to have a really tough battle in that Metro division. There's a lot of teams that look better than before. I mean, look at the run that Carolina had last year, as well as the Islanders. Can they keep that up? You get the Capitals that are always strong. The Penguins are going to be different without Kessel. I certainly think that the Penguins might be a little weaker, but you can just never count them out with guys like Crosby and Malkin on that roster. The Flyers look like they've improved. The Devils look like they've improved. Like I said, the Rangers are probably going to be better as well. There's just so much going on in that division. The only team that you can really clearly say, at least in my opinion, that certainly is expected to be not as strong would be Columbus, but they still got some good pieces left there too. It's going to be a dogfight, and I wouldn't be shocked. And we'll see here. I actually have a video coming up here in the next week with some playoff predictions. You'll see what my real full thoughts are and an analysis on that topic. But which teams are going to be in. But either way, the Rangers, I think, are a team that could make some moves, but it's going to be a wait and see approach and see how the season goes before they rush into anything, in my opinion. We've also had some trade rumors coming out of Pittsburgh with Josh Yeo of The Athletic reporting that apparently general manager Jim Rutherford is really close to trading defenseman Jack Johnson, and it's probably going to be in some sort of a package deal. It's believed that he's actually notified Johnson to kind of let him know that what's being discussed, what's being worked on. Of course, they gave him an unfavorable contract at $3.25 million. There's still a lot of years left on that deal. He hasn't been in Pittsburgh that long. Obviously he's great friends and very close with Sidney Crosby, which many believed was the reason why he opted to sign there. Of course, the contract offer was certainly nice enough as well. But things haven't really panned out, and it looks as though if he is required to stay in Pittsburgh, if they can't move him, that he's probably going to be the odd man out and probably be spending a lot of time up in the press box. But apparently Rutherford has talked to a lot of teams about possibility of trading Johnson along in a package deal, maybe including a goalie like we've talked about before, like a Tristan Jarry, maybe a Casey DeSmith. I think Jerry's more likely, and there could be another piece in there like a forward as well, like we said, either Bukestad or Rust or somebody, a little bit of a less significant piece out of their forward group could be packaged as well. It's hard to say exactly what the offers are, but the report indicates that Rutherford has multiple trade offers that he's mulling over, and sometime in the next few days before the season starts, that a trade is very highly likely to go down. Of course, there's no guarantees in any of this. This is what his sources are telling him, and it does kind of make sense that they would have, want to make this kind of move. I'm not sure that they'd have multiple offers. I guess we'll see. Jack Johnson was almost traded once already in the Minnesota deal with Kessel. Of course, that was vetoed by Kessel himself, so we'll see what else Rutherford has up his sleeve here, but I think the Penguins kind of are in a situation here where they do need to make a move. If they can move Johnson, it would be great for their cap situation. It'd be great for their blue line because he hasn't really panned out. So we'll see what Rutherford's up to, and if he actually gets traded in the next few days, like the report indicates, is highly likely. That is all your latest news updates here for today. So, of course, as always, want to know your thoughts, your opinions, and all the topics we've covered. Let me know what you think down in the comment section, and we'll continue the conversation. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe for more NHL content. We have daily videos covering all the latest news from all 31 NHL teams. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will catch you next time.